All right. Well, hi, everyone. I am Scott King, and thanks for joining us in the latest episode of the Union Podcast. And I'm joined by my usual co host, Chris Kraus. Chris, why don't you explain a little bit about who you are?
Hey, Scott. As you know, I'm a dog dad. So I have Blue, who's a black lab who's 13 years old, and she's really sweet but going deaf. And then I have Max, who's a pug who's 9, but no one knows he's 9 because he's so high energy. He's got the gray hair like me. And obviously, having a black lab and a black pug, that means my hobby is vacuuming dog hair every day around the house.
Okay, that is accurate, but a slight hallucination. So, Jeff, I'm going to prompt you a little bit differently.
All right.
Who are you? And can you explain to me about what you do here at Krista and then how you apply that knowledge to provide value back to our customers?
Okay. That is much more explicit, and so I think I can craft an answer for that. So my name is Jeff Bradley. I am what we call a senior solution architect at Krista, but what that really means is that I work with the product and I work with our customers to help them use Krista to achieve the business value that they're trying to get out of our product. And where that applies in things like using artificial intelligence and where now specifically we're talking about prompts, is I help them and us internally as well determine how we can best use AI in order to get the proper types of results that we're looking in order to achieve those business results. So maybe that's a little high level, but that's basically what I do. And I suppose we'll get into some of the more detailed stuff moving on here.
I like that you gave a couple of caveats because even when I play with the LLMs, sometimes there's a caveat. So I'll prompt it. And obviously we're talking about prompting today, but we wanted to provide a couple of examples to begin with. But you ever seen at the bottom of like ChatGPT, it says, hey, to the best of my knowledge, you may want to consult your lawyer or you may want to consult your employer. So I like that you gave some caveats with that. Well, that's perfect. So today we're talking about the rise of the prompt engineer because people ask us about this. Like, how can I better prompt it? Or how can I train my model? Or how can I fine tune? Essentially what they want better results, like what Jeff was explaining. Like, how do I get the best result? So why don't we talk about, we provided the example. Let's define what a prompt is. So Jeff, can you give us a better idea and don't do your LLM hallucination this time?
All right.
What is a prompt?
I'll do my best, but I just want to, I will say that all the information that I know of ends in 2021. So for the past 2 years, I have a limited amount of knowledge. But that said, so very simply stated, when we're interacting with a large language model like ChatGPT or OpenAI, Bard, or any of the other ones that are becoming more and more popular, a prompt is very, very simply the instructions that we're giving to the model and the question or the information that we want the model to return us, to return to us. So that's basically what a prompt is. What do I want from the model? What am I asking it? What do I expect back?
Okay. Chris, you want to add anything to what is a prompt?
Yeah, so it is based on natural language, which makes it interesting because it's different than things we're used to in the computer industry. Like we're used to things like SQL, standard query language, or the original was SEQL, standard English query language. We're used to learning, here's how to do something, here's the rules of how it works, like select from, table, where, order by. So it's something I could learn, and I actually learned in my case in college because it was new back then. Now they probably learn in high school. Or things like XML. Like XML was purpose built so we have a common way to describe data to pass between different systems and enterprises. So prompt engineering is natural language based. It's not a standard and that's adopted by multiple people. And so it causes problems because everybody can interpret a sentence differently. Everybody can interpret the intent and things differently because the advantage is it's natural language based. The problem is you don't know how they're interpreting it, right? So that's why it's interesting to us, and that, do we need a prompt engineer to help do this thing called work with natural language? Because you think everybody speaks, we've all got natural language, but as you just proved in the intro, you asked me a question. It was a very accurate answer. It just wasn't in the context of what you're looking for.
If I add something really quick too, the difference between the things that Chris talked about, SQL and those other things, is in any kind of programming language. And when we talk about IT and we talk about automation, we're talking about deterministic things, right? We talk about, I want this record from a database table. I want, a particular item where certain constraints apply. When we're talking to these large language models now, it's non-deterministic, meaning that it is, just like Chris said, it is subject to the interpretation. So that's where the trick, I suppose, or the art of prompt engineering comes in. How do we get the types of results that we're looking for?
So you guys were talking about SQL and XML databases. These seem like engineering terms, but then you're telling me that the prompt is natural language. So why are people asking if they need a prompt engineer if it's not an actual engineering discipline?
Because you have to learn how each engine is going to respond to a prompt. So what you would prompt, say, FLAN versus BART, Baird, or OpenAI may be different, because the way it's going to interpret your prompt is differently. So like a human needs to, in their brain, become an expert in one of them, or maybe an expert in two of them, because it is understanding some undocumented, unknown things at this point.
Okay. So do I need a prompt engineer? So if I'm an enterprise and if you're, every single one of them is going to install one of these LLMs, and they're all looking for, maybe they're looking for prompt engineers. I've seen job ads. Hey, prompt engineer, this salary band, must have these qualifications, must be working with ChatGPT longer than it existed, things like that. Do I actually need one of these?
So I would say, do you need a human being as a prompt engineer? Not necessarily. Do you need prompts to be engineered for the LLM you're working with to describe the context? Yes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. Actually, software can do that for you. So I think there's a subtlety. Do you need prompt engineering? Yes. Do you need an army of people to do it manually? My assertion would be no.
Jeff, agree, disagree?
I agree. Obviously, if you're going to use an intelligent automation platform like Krista, you can embed the context. Really, what you're trying to do with these, with a large language model, is you're trying to provide it context. What is the problem? What information do I want, as well as constraints? What are the limitations that I want you as the model to come back with, as well as providing any additional training material, other documents or information. That can all be done through an automation platform just like Krista. Obviously, if you're just going to use ChatGPT in its web form, and you're going to try to get some value out of that or try to implement that, then you might need, at least to start with, a person. But again, I think the important thing, if you need people to do it, it's the business context that you're trying to solve. You can, once we understand how those LLM works and how we get the best results out of them, that can be embedded, taught into Krista, and then Krista can then manage, the interactions with those LLMs.
Well, couldn't I just do a training class on how to prompt these things, right? There's employee, do I teach my employees how to prompt correctly? I've seen, examples online. Somebody will say, okay, here's my prompt for this, or here's my prompt for that, copy this and modify it. Can't you just do that?
Yeah, sure. But what it depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to get the business value. What is the best? How does there's a difference between when you and I are using this at home, or maybe maybe you're going to use it to try to generate some marketing documents or something like that. Here's all the information. Give me a marketing document, but you're still going to take that document and you're gonna edit it and tweak it and refine it, right? Um, that's maybe the kind of thing that you might, I don't even know about training classes. I would just say go online and try to figure that stuff out. I think when you're trying to get real business value and trying to incorporate these into the enterprise, again, I think it makes sense to use some kind of platform that's going to manage those for you. I think that's how you'll get the faster value, how you're going to get more bang for your buck without necessarily having your employees have to learn, Watson X, Chat GPT 3.5 and 4, and Llama and FLAN and all these others.
Yeah. So Jeff,
Okay.
we were talking before. I think you've actually run samples of this, right, inside the engines to see how, with and without prompts, things come back differently. So what do those look like?
Yeah. So one example, a really, I think, an interesting example that we've done is we take customer service input messages, and these can come over a chat bot or they can come through email. And what we do is we take that information and we're extracting data from it. And when we first just said, okay, we're going to use a large language model, OpenAI, let's just say, okay, please give me the account number and the billing month that this customer is requesting. First of all, that may not even be in there. And one of the things that we found, if somebody just said, hey, I want information about subscribing to your service, and then we go in and we pass it in and says, can you find an account number and a billing month? There isn't one. So first of all, what the model will do is in fact hallucinate, and it will come back with some account number and some billing month, even though one doesn't exist. So when you just say, give me the account number and billing number, then you have to go and start saying things like, and if there isn't one, please do not respond with any data. And please only give me the information in its raw form, the number, the account number, the billing month in month and day. In fact, another thing that we had to do, because when we're using OpenAI, we had to say, assume the current year is 2023. And actually, we just grabbed the calendar and pushed the current date in there. Because if someone said, I need some information for my bill in June, it would come back and say June 2021. So what we had to do was we would say, okay, let's give it a lot of information about what we want very specifically and how we want that data to be formatted. And if you don't have the data, please don't make it up. And then we had to go through a wide variety of different, customer sample data in order to just hone in those prompts. But once we did that, we could put that into the Krista tool, and now it just runs automatically for that customer, and it's great.
So it sounds like it's actually really important. Like, better prompts do better things.
Exactly. You want to be explicit.
Yeah. So Scott, I know you actually do this yourself with our podcasts to clean up the language in our podcasts and create summaries, right? So you do a different type of prompting, which is very different from what Jeff was talking about of extracting data. So what do your prompts look like?
To clean up the podcast transcript. So yeah, the transcript is machine generated. And so I have a couple of different prompts because I use two different tools. So that's kind of interesting that you guys are talking about that. But I'll tell it, hey, clean up the pod. First I have to ask it, do you know what a podcast transcription is, right? To give it context. And then it'll say, yes, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, I want you to clean this up for grammar and punctuation and remove all the comfort words. So those are words like, the world. And so it does a pretty good job. I've played with a couple of different ones. I've played with the OpenAI ones. And then I pay for one called Jasper. It actually does a little bit better job because it's more of a writing tool than just a everything tool. So yeah, and then the prompts for each are completely different. And I learned by trial and error because a lot of times it would summarize too much. So then I had to tell it, hey, don't don't omit any content. Use all the content because it would take 300 words and squeeze it into 150, and then it didn't sound like what we were talking about at all.
Yeah. So my experience has actually been different than the two of yours. When I do prompting, a lot of times I need the machine or the software to help me do the prompt. So like when I'm writing information about, say, an employee, I will use an API call to extract who's the employee, what country do they work in, are they a manager, which subsidiary company are they in, to get the context of the person. And then when I ask what's a vacation policy, it's not generically a vacation policy. It's for a specific person of a role in the organization. So I use prompting a lot of times to add information to the things. You guys are talking about removing information. I actually do the opposite. I take systems of record and I'll say, go get the last 10 orders for a company, go get the last 10 invoices and their statuses for a company, and provide that information so that when they answer a question in the context of my orders and my statuses, I've dynamically done that. So obviously that's something that the machine has to do. Like a human can't go into Salesforce and cut and paste in the prompts and go into, SAP and get the invoices and that. You need a machine to do that. So you need prompting to be done by a machine at machine speed. Because if 400 customers ask that, a human can't do that manually. You need to automate that process so it happens at machine speed. So I think it's interesting. We've talked about two different profiles. One is narrowing scope. Yours is like, how do you help it summarize better and get rid of the safety words and such? The other is, how do you actually give it the information so that it actually gives you a better answer? So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. Three different things.
Yeah, but both have the same goal. And that was kind of what was in Jeff's intro. He's talking about business value, right? So a lot of times people ask us about this and they're thinking one step at a time.
Yeah.
And they need to understand that's actually a step in a larger process, right? If I want to ask a question about orders, that means I'm probably after something else. Like, is the average order of this customer above or below the rest of the mean, right? Is this a high value customer or can this customer wait? But if you have a machine do this, then, obviously that happens at machine speed. We didn't even talk about like mean time to resolution. Like what could machine speed do to all of these processes, right? I mean, everything just goes faster and it's more intelligent, but you have to have a way to get to that speed, right, Chris? So you were talking about integrating to Salesforce. A lot of people ask us about that too. But that's important, right? Because if you can't go grab the data quickly, the answer takes just as long.
Yep, for sure.
All right. So if you guys were talking, we're talking about the prompt engineer, and we're actually talking a lot about engineering principles, but from what I understand from the two of you, there's actually no standard way to do this.
Yeah.
So
at this point, there's more art than science.
Yeah, it is. So how do we balance the art and the science? The science is easy, right? We can talk about structured languages, but here it's more art. So how do you guys advise people on doing more of the artful prompts?
So I think there's two things we do. I'll start out and I'll pass to Jeff because we've both done a lot of this. But the first thing is realizing that there's an art for learning how to prompt an engine, but there's always a new LLM. There's always a new version. So what works today may not work in 2 months or 3 months. So there's the concept of having, say, a test set. And God knows we've all three worked for a testing company. We love some regression tests. But there is the concept of like, given this information, if I ask the same prompted question to it every week and then it changes, then we would say that's actually a failing regression test because the results may not be the same. So realize we put some discipline we would learn about regression testing into this, because we want to test the LLMs automatically every week to say, have they made a change to the API I don't know about? Like, is there an unintended consequence that occurs in the background that it got smarter or it got dumber, or like John says, it lawyered up on me and said, so there's part of that. And so there is the whole, it's ever changing. So, I mean, and Jeff, you've done a lot more prompting with different LLMs and different ways to prompt. What's your experience in that? Mine is that I love testing. So, I'm going to go that approach.
I think you have to your point, Chris. So, I mean, well, I'm going to pull the thread on your comment for a second, because I think it's important, and maybe we can put this in the show notes. I didn't have this information handy, or I don't have it at the moment, but there was a report that Stanford University released maybe a month or so ago, that they had been doing continuous testing against OpenAI. I don't know if it was 3, 5, or 4. I think it was 4. But anyway, they had actually proven through their testing that the OpenAI LLM had been tuned down to be dumber. So if you think about it, unless you're going to, and this is actually something that we can do and that we will support, if you want to be assured that you're going to get the consistent responses, once I've tuned or engineered my prompts the way I want them, and I want to get consistent results back, if I don't have an on-prem LLM, I'm going to have to continuously test and make sure that those work, because it's out of your control when it's somebody else's LLM and they can change it over time, and they do.
Yeah. So they can't be hard coded. They have to adapt to changes, right?
Right. So that I think, and I think the trend is it probably they're going to get smarter over time. So hopefully you're not going to lose anything. But as that Stanford report actually indicated, sometimes they get dumber over time. So a prompt or a set of prompts to get me some very specific and information pertaining to my business may not work after a period of time because of changes made. And so that's a risk. And so that is why the continuous testing of this is tremendously important. To kind of put a bow on this, in terms of working with different LLMs, if you're working with Bard or some of these other ones, they really come down to what type of information are you trying to get from them. Sometimes they're really accurate, and then sometimes they're just terrible. But you have to really work with each and every LLM and rigorously test it and make sure that it is giving you the right information, and you have to keep doing that on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Yeah. If you want the right information from it, you probably ought to give it the right answer, right? And then if it's getting dumber over time, that's not good. And I have experience with that. So, so if we want to, sum this up, and people say, okay, yes, I'm in. I want to engineer better prompts. My choice is I have a person or a team do this. I have a machine do it for me. Like, I'll ask you, Chris, first, since Jeff just spoke. What do they need to do, right? Where do they go? What answers do they need to provide with the rest of the team, so they can be comfortable and get going, because time is of the essence, right?
Yeah. So I think to realize first, market awareness, like there are platforms like Chris said that know how to prompt different engines differently. You give it a statement like, this is an employee in North America who's a manager with a level 6 security clearance. So you want a platform that knows how to take the attributes of someone and then secure what they're going to retrieve, and then actually be able to prompt the engine correctly in the context of the person itself. So that's something is like, you don't need a bunch of prompt engineers to be hired. What you probably need is a handful of people who are prompt engineers or prompt engineer savvy who know that I need to give context when the business person asks a question. And then you'll want a platform that actually knows the subtleties of FLAN versus ChatGPT, and it in the background does the appropriate prompting so it hits the right natural language to trigger the right rules. And then you want a machine speed to regress that every day and test it.
All right, Jeff, anything you want to add?
I don't have anything to add to that because I think that just sums it up very, very nicely. If people really do want to dig into how do I get the best results out of ChatGPT in lieu of using a platform like Krista, there's plenty of good resources on the web. There's plenty of techniques that people are laying out, and there's actually good, university research papers on how do I get the best information out of ChatGPT or Bard or Llama or FLAN, and that one can look up and see, how do I do this? What are the different techniques I can use in order to get the type of info that I want out of my model?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember how to interact with 3 devices, how to interact with 7 different APIs who want different things. That sounds really complicated.
Yeah. And Jeff, I will give, we're talking about caveats. You said the best result at an acceptable cost, right? Because it's a nonlinear cost curve. You can keep spending money and you'll never get to 100%.
That's right.
Well, thanks guys. I appreciate it. Talking about prompt engineering. Hopefully everyone listening, you learned a little bit. I did, about the art versus the science, and there's no standardized way. So I really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time on the Union Podcast.